It is time for the second movie recommendation that you all left for me in my 21 in 31 challenge that I am doing throughout the month of October. And this time I have picked Psycho Goreman from 2020 because this was a movie that was already on my radar. And then when you find out that somebody is like, oh, you actually need to watch this, I am far more likely to go and watch it knowing that somebody says it's actually worth watching. Now, the director of this movie happened to also have been a director of one of the shorts in the ABCs of Death 2. And I seem to have this little side project going on where if a director has been featured in the ABCs of Death 2 or 2.5, I am trying to find out where their careers have all gone. Like, for the example that I used recently was Stop Motion that came out this year. The director for that movie also happened to be in the ABCs of Death 2. Now, the director for this movie, Psycho Goreman, was the same director that did W is for Wish, which has got some wild cameos in it, considering that it was 10 years ago. We're talking the Sorska sisters and Brandon Cronenberg were in that short movie in the ABCs of Death 2. Like, how the hell do you swing there? Steven Kostanski, who is the director of Psycho Goreman, is more well known though for being a special effects makeup artist, so that is the area that I am the most interested in when it comes to Psycho Goreman, because even though he is not on the creative team for this one and he is just the director, there is no way that he would settle for anything less than what he would personally put on camera. Like, you wouldn't settle for less. So I'm looking forward to this one. But if you don't know anything about Psycho Goreman from 2022, let me quickly fill you in. Psycho Goreman from 2022 is a sci-fi action horror comedy. Siblings Mimi and Luke unwittingly resurrect an ancient alien overlord. Using a magical amulet, they force the monster to obey their childish whims and accidentally attract a rogues gallery of intergalactic assassins to a small town suburbia where they will fight for the fate of the galaxy. If you're new here, I go by Hordes, and if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, so if that sounds like something you would be interested in, maybe hit the subscribe button and join the Horde here on YouTube. But as always, when it comes to watching movies that I have never seen before, I am now going to go and watch Psycho Goreman from 2022 off camera. So that way, if you want to watch this mashup of genres starring really cool aliens that look like they could be out of Doctor Who, nothing will be spoiled for you, because nobody wants to watch a movie you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish, and I keep it spoiler free here on my channel because nobody, and I mean nobody, enjoys spoilers.
I am no man.
It is very Doctor Who meets a little bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with a sprinkling of Red Dwarf on the top of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just think you need to really be into sci-fi. Now, I saw somebody on Letterboxd describe this in the most perfect way, and they described it as, it's like if the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers villains were the main characters. And it's absolutely that. Like, you just need Rita Repulsa in this.
Let's go, Rita.
I am a 90s baby, a 91 baby to be exact. So I grew up watching a lot of the weird-ass kids TV shows from the 90s. We're talking things like The Riddlers, Round the Twist, Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids, The Queen's Nose, The Demon Headmaster. I could just go on with the list of the weird shows that I grew up with. But I bring this up because Psycho Goreman kind of feels like I've seen it before, even though I've never seen it before, because it reminds me of the stuff that I grew up watching as a kid. Like, for example, just look at the stuff that was in Goosebumps. But this brings me on to the plot, because I think I like the concept for this movie more than I actually like the execution of this movie. And I like the beginning. I like the whole, oh dear, we've released this giant demonic demon thing that's controlled by a magic necklace, and the whole establishment of the Magic Space Council, which is made up of all kinds of aliens, like that bit. And then I lost all interest until the actual aliens descended onto Earth, and then I really wasn't that overly interested until Psycho Goreman completely unhinged his entire face and swallowed an alien whole. And that was probably about the hour mark.
Are you serious?
I just felt a bit underwhelmed with Psycho Goreman. Like, its humour isn't for me, so I'm immediately going to put that out there. The humour just doesn't work for me in this movie, and that is a personal thing. Humour is just as subjective as horror is, and what works for one person is not going to work for another. But with this plot, it felt very much like somebody created this character of Psycho Goreman, and then they had to come up with a plot to base around him. Like, I was never fully invested in this one. Every single time the character Mimi, though, said dig it, all I heard was this in my head. Can you dig it? And she is way more likely to destroy the galaxy than any of the aliens in this movie. She is a tiny, tiny Disney villain. In fact, she reminds me, she's nearly identical to the character of Carmelita Spatz from the Series of Unfortunate Events TV show, which means just one thing in my world. Yes, I found her annoying as all hell. I have no idea why her brother Luke lets her speak to him this way, and I guess it's a tiny spoiler. At one point, he actually stands up to her, and I was like, good for you for actually finally standing up to your sister who has done nothing but like bully you and push you around. Like, tell me from a parent's point of view that you have boundaries for one child but not for the other because she's a daddy's girl and dad is lazy and doesn't actively participate in his kids' lives and is just kind of a houseplant until around the minute mark when he suddenly decides, I'm going to be a parent now. The aliens in this movie are such a hodgepodge of different species, and this could have been a challenge in the competition show Face Off when it was still running. It's like, the brief was, here are a bunch of intergalactic weapons, you are now going to create an alien assassin based on this assignment, because none of the aliens in this are remotely similar to each other. But one of them, in particular, there is a sentient trash can that shoots blood out of its hands. It's just Urshin from the game Breath of Fire 4.
Different, but same.
But I was correct when I said that I thought the makeup would be the highlight in this, and a lot of the monsters in this, and a lot of the aliens, do feel like they could have been in an episode of Doctor Who back when like David Tennant was still the Doctor and there was a lot of still like camping, cheese and that sort of feel to Doctor Who. And the thing with them it's one issue that I have though with them, and that is mostly with the Space Council, their faces are very rigid and there is not a lot of movement that allows the actors to emote through them, and I think that is because they are probably made of foam latex and they are done as a single piece, so think like a mask, rather than multiple pieces like a cowl and face prosthetics, which isn't allowing the actor to actually emote through the face pieces. So when you see actors moving their mouths, it is very, very minimal if the mouths actually move at all. Random piece of trivia for you. Foam latex prosthetics, when they are taken care of, they are cleaned correctly and stored properly, can be reused on an average of 5 times. The most on record is 30, but the average is 5. They are incredibly durable, which means they are less likely to tear, and if they do tear, they are very easily patched. Plus, they are able to withstand the heat and movement from an actor, which is why they are a great choice if you are making a lower budget feature.
The lesson is over.
I was just never fully invested in this one, and this is how I felt as well about Steven Kostanski's other feature movie, which is The Void from 2016, the like cosmic H.P. Lovecraft horror. And again, I love the prosthetic in that, but the story just wasn't for me, and that is how I feel about Psycho Goreman. There are parts that I like in it, mainly how all the aliens looked, but the story isn't for me. And this may sound like a strange statement, but I can also see why other people would like this movie. It's not a bad movie, it's just not a for me personally movie, and that is perfectly okay. So in the end, I am actually going to give Psycho Goreman from 2020 a 2.5 out of 5 stars, but I will say, if you grew up watching the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from the 90s and you love the campy, cheesy episodes of Doctor Who, then absolutely give Psycho Goreman a try. It's a little bit of Red Dwarf as well, it's a little bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. While the humour didn't work for me personally, it will absolutely work for other people, and I think the big thing about this is the prosthetics are great, and then it's got a really good soundtrack as well. So it does have selling points, but it just wasn't for me. It's got some really good gory action sequences in there as well, if that will also sell you a little bit on it if you are on the fence about this one. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review for my first time watching Psycho Goreman from 2020. If you've also seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on it down in the comment section down below, and if this is one that you would be interested in watching, as always, I will leave a link to justwatch.com in my description bar so you can find out where it is streaming in your country. If you would like to know where else you can find me though, I am also over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, and so far this year I have watched over 150 horror movies, so there are plenty of things over there that I have not even mentioned right here on YouTube. But speaking of YouTube, I will be back on Friday, and this time it will be for the third recommendation that was left for me in my 21 in 31 challenge. I have no idea what it's going to be yet, so you will have to come back and find out, probably on Thursday when I post my sneak peek post. So until next time, bye.